Hi guys, so this time I've got some room buildings which I've been building recently. I might just show you how I did them. It's all relatively easy built with relatively cheap materials. I do it this way because I can just knock them up for my gaming club, and they wear pretty well as well. So the base of this will be made out of foam board. Now foam board is foam sandwiched between two bits of card. It's really sturdy material, really light as well, so it's easy to store. And it's pretty hard wearing. It is a bit prone to warping in that if used in large areas, especially with basing that. Other than that, it's great for buildings. Foam board you can probably get out of any of your hobby stores, that kind of thing. You can also find it online relatively cheap. But as you see, mine's coloured here. And if you didn't know, some of the supermarkets will have big signs up. They're about 2 foot by 3 foot. And these are made out of foam board, and at the end of the year they just chuck them away. These were a Christmassy batch from a supermarket where a friend of mine worked, and he managed to get me a couple of sheets of it. So for me this was relatively cheap, and probably somewhere you can find some as well. So what I did is I cut a group of strips, all 50mm wide, and then I've got a batch of them and cut them to length and width of a building. So they'll all be ruined buildings. I'm going to try and go for 3 to 4 sides, just so they look almost complete, and there's plenty to move around on for games like Mordheim and Bolt Action. And I've slipped through but haven't gone all the way through, so it's all folded on the last bit of card, and just to have a building like this. Then with another strip I did the second floor, and then made all the edges raggedy that I didn't want to have any other layers on. I mean, you can go up and build 3, 4 layers if you want to. I'm just doing a 2-layer one here. So it looks something like this. They're all measured the same, and then you just knock down the edges and just use your knife carefully with it. Make sure it's nice and sharp, because this stuff blunts your knives really quick. And just make it all the edges jagged. Next up, you just want to put in some windows and doorways, that kind of thing. Just work with the material that you've got. Remove anything you don't think should be there, any overhanging pieces. I mean, later on I'm just going to have a quick chat about what you can add to this, but for the moment this is at its most basic as I can. And here I've just got to make the first floor, again out of foam board. I've just got a weight on it at the moment, just showing you if you weight it down it just keeps it all nice and flat and smooth. I'm just using white glue. It's not, you know, the cheap PVA stuff. I use DIY wood glue. I'm a carpenter anyway, so I've got plenty about, and that holds really well with this stuff as long as you can give it time to dry. And finally put the second layer to and stick it to, so you can have something like this. When you do the floors, make sure you've got plenty of space cut away. Now, it might seem ridiculous to have large areas wedged out, but obviously you'll have a stairwell in there somewhere, and also if it's ruined, it's broken away. But it's also important that you've got easy access to areas underneath, so you can get at the model, so it's not too clumsy when you're trying to play on your game board as it is. And then I've just included the top side on. Again, I had a bit of foam board just resting across it all, and put a few weights on it just to make sure I keep most of it down. And once dry, I moved on. While that was all drying, I just knocked up some 10mm strips of card. This is just 0 box cards, so again, something I was throwing away anyway, I can make use of. And these strips I just used to cover up the corners, and put strips along the middle, so all the edges are covered up. We squared up all the corners. You can see some holes and gaps there. Don't worry about that, because we'll be doing a little concoction later on which will cover all that in. So that will just seal it all up, so it doesn't look odd in a minute, and this will be your timber work later on. Okay guys, this is the messy bit. You want a mix of filler, water and PVA glue, wood glue that I said about, and then just paint everything with it. Stipple some areas just to give it a bit more texture. Fill in all the holes that you find, especially on the top corners and that, you have plenty of holes there. And the filler shrinks with a relatively small amount. PVA just makes the filler less crumbly when it's finished, so it's less likely to break off. So you want a good chunk of PVA in there. And when it's all done, you should have something that looks something like this. As you see, you can just see some scrape marks in there. I'm going to paint timber work on there, so just to add to it I've put some lines in the filler itself if I wanted to you know, make it a bit more obvious what's there instead of just having it the texture that's everywhere else. So once that's all dry, I'm straight onto the painting. I douse everything in a dark brown paint. For God's sake, don't use any Games Workshop paint or your Vallejo paint for any of this. Go down to your whatever hobby store or something, get some acrylic paints, you know, big tubs of it. Don't use small tubs for this kind of work. I know it sounds obvious, but it's really easy to do so because you obviously often have the stuff there, but don't if you can help it. So as I say, just one coat of dark brown. I then cover on all the walls to give this light brown texture. I'm trying to go for a building that doesn't have an age to it. It could easily be used for Mordheim, can easily be used for, you know, World War II country towns and villages and that kind of thing. So probably a cobstone wall, that kind of effect with timber work in it. So next up, I did a light colour over the top. I used dry brushing on this just so you can see the darker colour below, which you can just see a bit better here. I then went round and painted all the strips of card in black, and then did a light brown just in strips just to create planks. I mean, you could use balsa wood or something if you wanted to, if you wanted a better finish on the top, something like that. But it's cheap and easy, and you just have to paint stripes, so that's what I went for on this one. Then with a lighter grey, I just painted what effectively looks like grain along the wood, just lots of little lines. Yeah, you know, up close maybe it's not amazing, but overall effect I think it looks alright. And then I also did the same effect on the planking, so I just took a lighter brown, just had a nice thin brush, just made these lines in it, just to make it feel a bit more like planks and give it a bit more 3D feel. And that was it. That's the building complete. So I did this one, I mean, it was over a couple of evenings. I got more than one worked on at the same time to have a nice little effect, and made it pretty easy to make. So what I said, this is pretty easy to do. There's nothing overly complicated around it. I've got two of them here. You know what, they look alright. I'm quite happy with them. They can easily be placed down. As for additions to it, you can play around with this. I mean, this is just like the basics. You can add card above the window sills to represent the wooden lintels. You could add the card in the bottom to actually to represent the window sills themselves. You can paint them grey. You can even cut out stones, place them on, just glue them to the wall, and after you've painted it all over, just pick them out again, just to make them a bit different. You could even do that with the corners if you wanted to. Instead of having wooden corners, you could do alternate brick, just with card, and then paint it with the filler mix, filler wood glue mix, and it, adds some more to it. So keep working with this. This is all I've got for the minute. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful to you, and I'll see you next time.